Starting with breaking news out of Los Angeles, where journalist Don Lemon has been arrested and is expected in federal court today. The DOJ claims that the journalist was part of a protest that disrupted a church service in St. Paul, Minnesota earlier this month, after reports that the pastor was an immigration and customs enforcement official. But Lemon says he was covering the protest as a reporter. So let's bring in CBS News national correspondent Lilia Luciano to tell us more about this. So Lilia, what have you learned subsequent to Don's arrest?
Well, Vlad, I was shocked this morning when I got a tip from somebody who is familiar with the arrest saying, big news, and that Don Lemon was in custody. Of course, I hadn't covered the protests. I got here this week, but I remember what had happened in that church back, I believe it was January 18th, where people had shown up to protest a pastor who worked with ICE. Don Lemon was there. We don't have, of course, the evidence, what was presented to this grand jury. But he was charged under the FACE Act, which is the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, which basically he's being accused. And initially, the government wanted to charge 5 people in total, including him, for basically obstructing people's freedom of speech, ironically, freedom of worship. This is an act that's usually used for people who obstruct the entrance or vandalize, for instance, abortion clinics. I think it goes back to the 90s when that was something that, that happened quite a lot, still happens today. And so basically, we don't know exactly what the evidence is. We don't know what activities he carried out, but we have seen the videos. He said he was interviewing the pastor. We've heard from Don Lemon's attorney, who says he was exercising as a journalist his First Amendment speech. We know that he was in Los Angeles when he was arrested because he was there to cover the Grammys on Sunday, and that there were multiple attempts by the federal government to charge him. First, a court here in Minnesota had refused to charge him. A judge did not, sign an order for his arrest. Then it was taken to an appellate court, and the appellate court also rejected. And now we know that a grand jury was paneled, presented, I presume, evidence for probable cause, and that led to his arrest. We, all of us who cover protests, Vlad, we're in the middle of protests when people are tear gassed. Journalists I've been tackled covering protests. Journalists have faced all kinds of challenges. We have seen here, I just saw a video of a journalist from the Associated Press who was pushed back into his car or told that you have to stay away while documenting one of the ICE arrests, and told that he's interfering with law enforcement. We keep hearing that journalists who are there are interfering with law enforcement activities. This is different. This is not, This is the act that's being used has specifically to do with First Amendment speech in churches or in clinics. But this is such an important message for all of us, that somebody could be charged, could face time while being there when a protest is happening. We have to wait and see what kind of evidence the government has of his involvement, his obstruction, and whatever he's being accused of.
All right. Lilia Luciano, thank you so much for this. Now let's bring in attorney Robin Nunn. Robin, so much to break down here, but I just want to get your legal perspective on, what is the line here between observation and participation?
Yeah, this case turns on whether the government can show probable cause that protected journalism caused the line into criminal conduct. These are serious federal rights, civil rights charges, but they hinge on conduct, not speech. Prosecutors have to show probable cause that there was an actual agreement to interfere with protected rights or physical obstruction under the FACE Act. Reporting on events, even controversial ones, is just not enough.
So, Robin, help me understand how this warrant was issued, because that doesn't seem clear. Apparently, there's some mechanism that allows the Department of Justice to force an arrest warrant, even if a judge refuses to sign that warrant. Help me understand it.
Yeah, what's really interesting in this case And what you mentioned that should be highlighted is this case came before a judge previously, and the judge wrote on the order, no probable cause, which I think is going to be really interesting for the DOJ to sort of tackle with as he has now been arrested. Because although a judge can say that this should not move forward, there are other mechanisms in the law where the DOJ can still proceed, and they are choosing to do so in this case.
Got it. Okay, Robin Nunn, thank you so much.